Have you ever wondered why, the more you talk, the more she drifts away? Why the more you explain yourself, justify yourself, reassure her of your feelings, the less she seems to value you? It's not an accident. It's not bad timing. It's a law of power in relationships that men forget. Over and over, the man who speaks less keeps more. The man who fills the silence with endless words loses his mystery, his weight, his gravity, and the man who masters restraint becomes the one she cannot forget. Think about the last time you liked a woman so much that you couldn't stop texting her. You told her about your day, your thoughts, your dreams. You thought, if I show her who I am, she'll see my heart. She'll know I'm different. But did you notice what happened? Her replies slowed down. She became less warm. She said she was busy more often. What you thought would pull her closer actually made her drift. Why? Because attention is currency. Words are currency. And the more you hand them out for free, the less they're worth. You don't realize it, but every over-explanation, every wall of text, every "just so you know" is silently telling her, I need you more than you need me. Women sense this imbalance like radar. It's not about cruelty, it's about instinct. If she feels your words spilling everywhere, she knows she doesn't have to earn them. And once she doesn't have to earn them, she no longer treasures them. That's when she stops valuing you. Silence, on the other hand, is pressure. Silence is space she has to step into. Silence makes her wonder what you're thinking, what you're doing, whether she still holds your focus. That's where attraction lives, not in flooding her with reassurance, but in holding back just enough to make her invest. Picture this: she texts you a short, vague, "What are you up to?" Most men, desperate to prove their worth, unload their entire schedule. Well, I just finished work. I'm heading to the gym. Then later I might meet my friend. And tomorrow I... Stop. That's not conversation. That's confession. You just turned a simple question into a diary entry. What happens if you instead say, busy day, but good? That's it. Do you know what she feels? Tension, curiosity. She has to work harder to pull more from you. That's the difference between being forgettable and unforgettable. The truth is, men sabotage themselves because they fear silence. They fear she'll lose interest if they don't keep talking. But the opposite is true. Silence is not absence. It's presence with weight. A man who doesn't need to fill every gap signals strength. He's comfortable in his own skin. He's not auditioning for approval. He's not begging for validation. And whether she admits it or not, that unsettles her in the best way. It hooks her. Here's where it gets even more real. Saying less isn't just about fewer words. It's about fewer explanations. Let's say she asks why you didn't reply instantly. Most men panic. Oh, sorry, I was driving. Then I had a meeting. Then my phone died. I wasn't ignoring you. That avalanche of excuses kills you. You think you're protecting her feelings, but all you've done is prove you're afraid of disappointing her. What if you just said was busy, all good now, no guilt, no apology tour? That's presence, that's weight. That's what makes her respect you. The psychology behind this is simple but brutal. People value what they work for. If you're always available, always explaining, always pouring yourself out, she doesn't have to work. She doesn't have to wonder. She doesn't have to miss you, which means she doesn't have to desire you. But when you withhold just enough, when your words are deliberate, when your silences have weight, she starts investing. She starts chasing. She starts asking herself, why do I care so much about what he thinks? Why does his opinion matter more than anyone else's? That's when you've shifted the dynamic. That's when you've gone from chasing to being chased. Now, don't misunderstand this. This isn't about playing dumb games or being cold. It's about balance. It's about realizing that oversharing, over-explaining, over-talking is a symptom of insecurity. It's trying to buy love with words. But real attraction, real respect, real power comes from what you don't say, from what you let her feel in the gaps, from the restraint you practice, even when you want to spill everything. That's how you say less and keep her. So ask yourself, have you ever caught yourself explaining too much just to calm her down? Have you ever realized your long texts made her colder instead of warmer? What's the hardest part for you when it comes to staying silent and letting her come to you? Tell me your story in the comments. Imagine this, you're sitting across from her at dinner, and she throws a little test your way. Maybe it's subtle, maybe it's sharp. Why didn't you like my photo earlier? Or, so you had time to text your friend, but not me. In that split second, most men cave. They over-explain, defend, apologize, reassure, trying to patch the tension before it spreads. They think, if I clear this up, she'll relax. But the reality, every time you rush to explain, you lose a piece of your frame. You hand her the steering wheel without even realizing it. See, what she's really doing isn't looking for an answer. She's feeling for your strength. She's testing the walls of your confidence. Not because she's cruel, but because instinct tells her a man who crumbles under a little pressure isn't safe to lean on when it matters. She doesn't need your justifications. She needs to feel your center doesn't break. That's why saying less is so powerful. Instead of launching into a speech, you breathe, hold eye contact, and say I was busy. Then you stop talking. Notice what happens. She waits for more, but you don't give it. She either accepts it, or she leans in and tries harder to pull from you. Either way, you've sent a message without over-explaining I don't owe you my every thought, and I'm not afraid of your reaction. That's what builds respect. Men often confuse love with compliance. They think keeping her happy means removing all discomfort, all doubt, all silence. But women don't fall for men who bend at every breeze. They fall for men who can stand in the storm without flinching. Your restraint is proof of your backbone. The less you scramble to please, the more she feels the gravity of your presence. Now let's talk about the psychology of over-talking. When you pour words into every space, what you're really saying is, I'm afraid if I stop, you'll lose interest. It's insecurity disguised as connection. But women don't remember every detail you share, they remember how they feel around you. And the feeling of chasing for your words, of having to pull your attention, burns deeper into her memory than you flooding her with easy access. It's the scarcity principle. Diamonds are precious not because they're useful, but because they're rare. Your words are no different. Think of a man who, after a date, texts paragraphs about how much fun he had, how amazing she looked, how he can't wait to see her again. His intention is sweet, but by handing over all his cards, he's robbed her of curiosity. She doesn't have to wonder if he liked her, he already spelled it out. She doesn't have to think about seeing him again, he's already begging for it. Contrast that with the man who texts one simple line, good time. That's it. Short, deliberate, weighty. Which one keeps her awake, replaying the night in her head? The one who left space. And here's the tactical part. Restraint isn't silence forever. It's silence in the right moments. You don't need to play mute. You need to stop explaining, stop dumping, stop narrating your life. When she asks, what are you doing later? You don't list your entire calendar. You say, got plans. She'll ask, what kind of plans? You smile. You'll see. That's intrigue. That's leadership. That's you setting the frame. The danger of over-talking isn't just losing attraction, it's losing yourself. You start to believe her comfort matters more than your dignity. You start chasing her peace at the cost of your power. And here's the harsh truth, once you've shown you'll trade respect for attention, She never looks at you the same way again. She might stay, but her desire fades. She might smile, but inside, she's restless. Because deep down, every woman wants to know she can't move you easily. If she can, you've already lost. So next time you feel the urge to explain, pause. Ask yourself, am I saying this to clarify? Or am I saying this to beg for approval? If it's the latter, stop. Bite your tongue. Let her sit in the silence. Let her wonder. Let her feel the tension. That's where respect grows. That's where desire breathes. Have you ever caught yourself spilling everything just to keep her calm? Did you notice how it only made her colder? What's harder for you, keeping your mouth shut, or dealing with the silence that follows? Be real with me in the comments. There's a moment every man remembers, that sinking feeling when you realize you've said too much. Maybe it was late at night, and she went quiet in the chat. You thought, she must be upset, so you doubled down, typing paragraph after paragraph, filling in the silence, throwing reassurance at a wall. You hit send, sat back, and waited. And when her reply finally came, it was cold, distant, maybe just a single emoji. That's when it hit you. Your words didn't bring her closer. They pushed her further away. Why does that happen? Because in relationships, words are not neutral. They carry weight, or they carry desperation. When you talk too much, you're not just sharing. You're trying to control her perception of you. You're trying to manage her emotions. You're trying to prevent her from drifting away. But here's the paradox: the more you try to hold her, the more she slips through your fingers. Women feel the hidden tension behind your words. They sense the fear. And nothing kills attraction faster than fear disguised as love. Now, let me give you a tactical scenario. She suddenly withdraws attention. Maybe she takes longer to reply, or she doesn't laugh at your jokes the way she used to. Most men panic. They send longer texts. They try harder. They ask, is everything okay? They think they're fixing the problem, but they're falling into a trap. Her withdrawal is not always about anger. Sometimes it's about testing. She wants to know, will you collapse if I pull back? Will you chase me harder? Or will you hold your ground? If you chase, you confirm her suspicion that she has all the power. If you stay calm, respond in short, measured ways, or even mirror her distance, you reset the balance. Think of it this way: silence is her move on the chessboard, but instead of playing your piece, you flood the board with words you've already lost. The strategic move is patience. You keep living, you stay focused. You don't break the rhythm of your own life. Maybe you reply later, maybe shorter, maybe not at all until she invests again. That's how you show strength without saying a word. Here's a story to make it real. A guy I knew once dated a woman who constantly tested him by pulling away. Whenever she went cold, he'd panic. He'd send her songs, long texts, apologies for things he didn't even do. And every time, she lost more interest. Finally, one day he got tired of it. She pulled back, and instead of chasing, he said nothing. He went about his week. A few days later, she showed up at his door, emotional, accusing him of not caring. But notice what happened when he stopped over-talking. She had to chase him. The game flipped. The power shifted. And for the first time, she respected him. This is why restraint is not weakness. It's power. The man who doesn't need to explain himself holds all the leverage. He doesn't collapse when she withholds. He doesn't beg for clarity. He doesn't break under tension. And that's exactly what makes him magnetic. Because here's the brutal truth: women don't fall for men who crumble at the first sign of pressure. They fall for the men who can stand unshaken. But there's another layer you need to understand. Saying less also exposes her investment. When you hold back, you see what she does with the silence. Does she try to reach you? Does she lean in, ask questions, make effort, or does she drift, disappear, and expect you to keep filling the gap? Her reaction tells you everything. If she leans in, she's interested. If she leans out, she never valued you in the first place. That's the hidden advantage of restraint. It reveals truth faster than words ever will. So next time she grows cold, don't jump to save it with explanations. Don't send essays, don't grovel. Let the silence do the talking. Keep your frame. Respond in simple, grounded lines. All good. Busy right now. Talk later. Watch what she does next. If she comes closer, she respects your strength. If she fades, she was never yours to begin with. Either way, you win because you didn't lose yourself in the process. Now I'll ask you, have you ever chased harder when she pulled away, only to watch her interest die? What's the longest you've stayed silent before she came back to you? And if she didn't, did you realize that was your freedom? Tell me in the comments. The greatest mistake men make is thinking they need to perform to keep her interested. They believe the relationship is a stage, and she's the audience waiting to be entertained. That's why so many men overtalk, over-explain, and overshare. They treat her silence as a spotlight they have to fill. But the truth, attraction isn't about performing, it's about being. A woman doesn't stay because you talk endlessly. She stays because you hold yourself like a man who doesn't need to talk at all. Think of a courtroom. The lawyer who talks too much loses credibility. The jury stops listening. But the lawyer who speaks only when necessary, who pauses and lets silence fill the room, commands attention. That's you in your relationship. Every unnecessary word dilutes your power. Every carefully chosen word amplifies it. Let's break this down into a scenario you've probably faced. She says, "I don't feel like you care enough." Now, most men rush to defend themselves. "Of course I care, I always call you. I always check on you. I'm always here when you need me." They stack evidence like a desperate defendant. But what they don't realize is that every defensive word confirms weakness. It's like trying to prove your worth to a judge who already made up her mind. Instead, what if you leaned back, looked her in the eye, and said, "You know how I feel." Nothing more. No begging. No proof. No panic. That's the difference between a boy seeking approval and a man owning his presence. The psychology here is brutal but liberating. The more you explain, the less she believes you. Words given in excess lose weight. But the fewer words you use, the heavier each one lands. A calm, short statement, "I'm here, you know it," hits harder than paragraphs of reassurance. Why? Because you're not trying to convince. You're stating reality. That calm certainty is what women can't resist. Another example, arguments. She's emotional, heated, throwing accusations. Most men match her energy. They argue back, louder, faster, piling on words to defend themselves. But when has that ever worked? Arguments aren't won with more words. They're won with fewer. If you stay calm, say less, and let her burn herself out, the dynamic flips. When she finally pauses, your silence feels like dominance. And when you finally speak, measured, grounded, simple, your words carry 10 times the weight of hers. That's why restraint is a weapon. This applies in dating too. Imagine you're just getting to know a woman. Most men think they need to reveal everything: job details, hobbies, backstory, every dream and struggle on the first few dates. They mistake connection for confession. But here's the problem. The more you reveal, the less she has to discover. You rob her of the thrill of peeling back your layers. You think you're building intimacy, but really, you're killing mystery. Mystery is what keeps her mind circling back to you when you're not around. Mystery is what makes her replay conversations in her head. Mystery is built not by what you say, but by what you withhold. Practical strategy. When she asks about your past, don't dump your entire history. Give her pieces. Tease. Drop a thread she has to pull on. If she asks, have you ever been in love, you don't launch into a 10-minute story about your ex. You pause, smile, and say, once. Then let her sit in it. Watch how much harder she works to pull the rest out of you. That's not manipulation. That's mastery of presence. Here's what you need to accept. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is space, and in that space, her desire grows. Every pause you leave is an invitation for her to step in. Every word you hold back forces her to lean forward. That's how you keep her chasing, not with noise, but with weight. Now think about yourself. How many times have you turned into the performer, the talker, the explainer, thinking it would win her? How often did it backfire? And when you did finally say less, did you notice how much more she leaned in? Which role do you fall into more often, the entertainer or the man with weight? Drop your answer below. Here's the hard truth: the man who says too much is easy to replace. He gives away all his secrets, all his energy, all his emotions up front. There's nothing left for her to earn, nothing left for her to wonder about. And once she knows everything, she feels nothing. But the man who says less, the one who doesn't give every thought, every plan, every confession, he's unforgettable. Why? Because she can't quite figure him out. He lingers in her mind. He holds space inside her curiosity. And curiosity is the spark that fuels attraction. Think about the moments that hooked you on a woman. Was it when she overshared, flooding you with endless details? Or was it when she gave you just enough, leaving you to wonder what she meant, who she was, what she felt? It's the same for her. She doesn't fall for the man who empties himself in front of her. She falls for the man who leaves pieces unspoken, gaps she can't stop trying to fill. Let's get tactical. You're in an argument, and she says you don't care about me. The average man panics and lists evidence: I called you yesterday. I bought you dinner. I texted you goodnight. I'm always there for you. But here's the psychological trap: you're not defending love. You're defending yourself. And the more you list, the less she believes. A better move: stay calm, look her in the eye, and say, you know I care. Then stop. Let the silence carry the weight. She'll feel it. Not because of your words, but because of your certainty. Or picture this: she posts a photo online and says, half jokingly, why didn't you like my picture? Most men scramble. Oh, I didn't see it. I'll go like it right now. You looked amazing. I'm sorry. That's weakness disguised as affection. Instead, smile and say, I saw it. Then nothing. That silence unsettles her. It makes her wonder what you thought, why you didn't react, why you're not giving her easy validation. That's how you hold the frame. That's how you shift her from testing you to chasing you. Restraint is not just about silence, it's about discipline. It's about not giving her access to your entire inner world unless she earns it. It's about resisting the urge to explain when she tests you. It's about controlling your emotional temperature when she tries to raise it. Every time you show you can't be moved easily, her respect deepens. Every time you flood her with words, her respect dies. Here's a story that makes this painfully clear. A man I worked with once dated a woman who loved to provoke jealousy. She'd mention other men, exes, co-workers. His instinct was always the same: explain himself, defend, get upset, make speeches about loyalty. And every time, she looked at him with less desire. Finally, I told him, next time she tries that, Don't explain. Just smile. Say nothing. He tried it, she said. My co-worker asked me out again today. He looked at her calmly, smirked, and stayed silent. Do you know what she did? She broke eye contact, got flustered, and changed the subject, because for the first time, she felt his strength. She couldn't move him. That's when the respect came back. The emotional cost of over-talking is high. You burn your energy, you exhaust your mind, you hand her your dignity, and worst of all, you start resenting her for the very thing you caused. You think she doesn't value you, but really, you gave her no reason to. You trained her to see you as predictable, weak, always available. But the moment you stop, when you cut off the endless explanations and hold yourself like a man who knows his worth, everything changes. She either rises to meet you, or she fades away. Either outcome is a win, because you kept your power. So I'll ask you, have you ever realized you trained a woman to stop valuing your words because you gave them away too easily? Have you ever watched her respect die as you explained yourself again and again? And what happened the one time you stayed calm, said less, and noticed her reaction change? Share your story below. There's a reason the strongest men in history, in business, in love, all mastered the art of saying less. They understood something most men never learn. Words can be cheap, but silence is expensive. When you speak too much, you lower your own value. When you hold back, every word becomes gold. And the man who speaks with weight never has to chase because people lean in to catch what he lets out. Let's strip this down to your daily reality. Imagine you're texting a woman you're seeing. She sends you something vague like, hey. The average man, hungry for connection, responds with paragraphs. Hey, how's your day? What are you up to? Did you eat? I was just thinking about that movie we watched. And maybe we should. He thinks he's showing interest, but all he's really showing is need. Meanwhile, the man who says less replies hey, then stops. He lets her work. He lets her wonder. He lets her carry the conversation. That single word response has more pull than the essay because it forces her to invest. This is not about being rude. It's about balance. You've been taught that giving more equals getting more. But in attraction, the opposite is true. Giving more without her earning it makes you forgettable. Giving less makes her earn. And what she earns, she values. Think about the women who still haunt your memory. Chances are, they weren't the ones who told you everything. They were the ones who left you wondering. That's the same power you hold when you say less. Now, let's talk about emotional manipulation. Some women, knowingly or not, use silence as a weapon. They withdraw attention, go cold, or delay responses to test your stability. Most men crack. They flood her with texts, try harder, beg for an answer, but here's the truth: if you collapse under her silence, you've failed the test. Because what she really wants to see is whether you stay steady when she pulls away. When you stop chasing and match her energy, or even stay above it, you show her you're unshakable. That's when she realizes she can't play with your emotions so easily. Picture this: she ignores your last text. You notice it, your chest tightens, and the panic rises. Most men type 3 follow-ups. Did you see my message? Are you mad? What's wrong? But what if you said nothing? What if you went on with your life, busy and centered, and let her come to you? That silence doesn't make you weak. It makes you unpredictable, and unpredictability keeps her in V. There's also the matter of over-explaining. Men love to dump details. She asks, where were you? And you give her the whole itinerary. I left work at 6, hit the gym, got groceries, ran into a friend. Then my mom called. Do you know what that communicates? Fear. Fear Fear that she'll misinterpret, fear that she'll get upset, fear that you'll lose her if you don't cover every base. A stronger move, I was out. Done. Simple. Solid. Let her ask if she wants more. Make her work for it. The deeper layer here is this: when you say less. You stop negotiating your value. You stop begging her to see you as worthy. You stop performing for her approval. And the moment you stop, she starts. She feels the gap. She feels the absence of reassurance. And suddenly, she's the one filling it. That's the quiet shift that flips attraction upside down. A friend of mine learned this the hard way. He was the type to always talk, always explain, always overshare. His girlfriend lost interest, and he couldn't figure out why. One day, in frustration, he snapped, "I don't owe you every detail." For the first time, he said less. And do you know what happened? She froze, stared at him, and for the first time in months, respected him. Because in that silence, she felt his spine. She felt that he wasn't afraid to lose her. And that's when she wanted him again. Saying less is not just a tactic, it's a mirror of your inner state. If you can't stop talking, you're ruled by fear. If you can sit calmly in silence, you're ruled by strength. Women don't stay with men who perform. They stay with men who can hold tension without breaking. And silence is the purest tension you can hold. So, I'll leave you with this. She didn't pull away because you were too quiet. She pulled away because you made yourself too predictable. Which one are you right now? The man who talks himself into weakness? Or the man who lets silence do the heavy lifting? And what would change in your life if you finally mastered restraint? Tell me in the comments. She didn't break you. She revealed what you were too afraid to protect.